He's Rick Tyler.
And he's Dan Cashman.
And I'm Elizabeth Sutherland, President and CEO of Sutherland Weston Marketing Communications. And I'm on my very own Ric and Dan Show.
In Maine, we often hear,
"You can't get there from here."
these are the stories of the risk takers,
The trailblazers.
those who turn obstacles into opportunities
every day and found their way.
to get there from here.
And today,
There on the Ric and Dan Show.
so she's like 6 minutes late now. Do we start without her?
I mean, we could.
Is she going to be upset if we start a podcast interviewing our boss when the boss isn't here because she's now 7 minutes late?
You're the one that's married to her. You can probably answer the question better than anybody.
She signs your paycheck too.
She does.
Here she comes. Welcome to our podcast studio.
How's it going so far?
Yeah.
So great.
So right now, Elizabeth is moving a microphone out of the way so she can see me. I think I am better off with it in the way. I don't think I need to be making eye contact right now.
I honestly don't think the microphone would stop the daggers coming from her eyes right now.
You guys are so funny.
We are a hoot.
I presume that all of you have reviewed the Excel spreadsheet I sent about the topics that I will not discuss because I'm married to the boss.
No.
What inspired you to break away from the cozy job you had working at the Big Tan House of Healing
Oh, I did love it.
and then starting what was at the time? Do you know the name of the company that she started when she left?
I do. It was Blue Paper Communications, but I wonder if you should explain what the Big Tan House of Healing is for people who don't live in your brain.
Yeah.
The Big Tan House of Healing is Eastern Maine Medical Center, now
Eastern Maine
Northern
Healthcare.
Light.
Yeah.
There was a difference between the system and the hospital itself.
Right. I worked for Eastern Maine Healthcare.
Were you married then?
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
something you probably should have known where she
For a while.
worked.
We've been married.
He's been calling it the Big Tan House of Healing so long, he didn't actually know where you worked.
This was on page 2 of the spreadsheet. What gave you the confidence to leave Eastern Maine Healthcare and start Blue Paper Communications?
So actually, more than confidence, what gave me, so honestly, it was maternity leave. I was out for a few weeks on maternity leave with our oldest son, Ian. And it was during that time that I actually had time to think about what I wanted out of life. I loved my job and I spent a lot of time working and believing in the initiatives and programs we had to move the communications of Eastern Maine Healthcare forward. And while I was on maternity leave, I was removed from that enough to really sort of do some soul searching for myself about what I wanted out of life. And it was that moment that gave me the grain of an idea that, slowly developed over the next 6 months into Blue Paper Communications.
What did Blue Paper Communications look like at the time?
So it was me, a computer from Sam's Club, a desk from Sam's Club, and an electric pencil sharpener that was a going away gift from the team of communications professionals at Eastern Maine Healthcare.
An electric pencil sharpener.
I was really
They spared
sad.
no expense.
No, listen, the thing that I was most concerned about was that I was a serious pencil user then, still am in a large respect. And I loved that electric pencil sharpener. And so as a going away gift, they got me my very own.
It's amazing. I remember when I went off on my own and I started my little PR agency, I walked in with the laptop. That's all I had. And I realized, oh my gosh, there's nothing here. Did you have that same sort of oh crap moment when you kind of set up your office? Like, oh, I'm starting from scratch.
Big time. Ric and I had lots of conversations. We had done some planning. I knew that I had a few weeks to sort of ramp it up. I didn't have the kind of runway that I would tell a young person to have now, right? But we started with lots of hope and a fair amount of optimism. And then I was really lucky was that I had some strong contacts in the region, and I had a few business owners, business people, business leaders in the greater Bangor area that called me up, gave me a job. I had a little project here, a little project there, and it allowed us to sort of get the ball rolling. I say us, but at the time it was me, myself, and I.
Can I tell a story about the day when you actually confessed to me that you wanted to make the move?
I don't remember this story, so maybe.
I'm not really sure what day it was, but we had both arrived home, and Ian was in the back seat, in the child seat. and I put the car in park, and you didn't move. You, however, let out a sigh. And I don't claim to know a lot about understanding you as my wife and soulmate. But I got that moment. And I turned to you, and I still remember what I said. Are we going to do it? Or are we going to wake up 20 years from now and wish we'd done it?
And look at us 20 plus years later.
Still asking ourselves the same questions.
No. I know. I'm really glad that I took that move. I'm really thankful for the leadership and mentor that I had from, at the time, my current boss, from leaders inside the system who encouraged me. And, Miles Thiemann was a huge mentor of mine, especially in those early days. He saw me through 2 or 3 really significant decision-making processes that were really helpful.
And for people that don't know who Miles is,
Miles, at the time, was the CEO of Affiliated Healthcare, which was the sort of for-profit arm of Eastern Maine Healthcare. He has since retired, but he spent many years as a business leader in this area and really focused on, he really understood not only the community and the people, but he was also wise about how you make money. And I learned a lot from him.
Now, one of the businesses I think he had ties to was Commercial Delivery Systems.
CDS, yes.
CDS. And still tooling around the roads today, you see the CDS vehicles.
Yep.
And you see the logo.
Yeah.
You want to tell the story about the logo?
Not really. No.
Come on, Elizabeth.
no,
tell them the story about the logo.
So,
I'm sorry. Was that on the spreadsheet? Oh, that was page 3, wasn't it? Don't talk about the CDS logo.
No,
okay.
no, it's not that.
Fine.
It's
Sure.
So at the time, CDS was owned by Affiliated, and or it was a joint venture that Affiliated was involved in, and they did hire us to create a brand standard and a branding package for CDS. And the logo that was on their trucks was on it for many years. Was something that I created in our sun porch. So a lot of people talk about how they had a back bedroom office, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have an extra back bedroom. We had a sun porch, and the sun porch became our office.
Was it at least a 4-season sun porch, or were you
Yes.
out there with no heat?
Well, it got really cold in the winter, let me tell you.
It was insulated. It did have heat. It was a little drafty. It was definitely an add-on to the building at some point, but it worked just fine.
And then came the day that you told me that you were meeting. I thought you were meeting at the Wigan Courier, but apparently you were meeting at Applebee's.
Oh, okay.
No, not Applebee's. You were meeting at
Uno's.
Pizzeria Uno.
Yeah.
You were
See,
meeting
Dan knew this story better than you did.
Good
Yeah,
Lord.
because I wasn't privy to it.
We should have reviewed
No one-
Oh, you think I was?
You probably knew more than I did.
No. Yeah. So we were coming up on our 2nd anniversary as Blue Paper Communications, and Cary Weston had his agency, which was called CM Weston at the time. We were up for the same job with the same client. It was a competitive process, and the business owner decided that he really liked both of our approaches and wanted us to work together. He thought he'd get a better result by bringing us together. And so honestly, he was the inspiration for what became Sutherland Weston. We worked on that initial project together, and then we worked on a couple of other projects with one another where our mutual, slightly different expertises dovetailed well, and decided that while we had different processes, we had different levels of expertise and different pieces of communication and advertising, marketing. One of the things that we did have was a mutual agreement on how a business should be run and a desire to see an agency grow and thrive in this part of the state of Maine.
And then after you and Cary at a table somewhere at Pizzeria Uno decided to do this, and then tell people when you finally decided to come and talk to me.
I don't
Couple
know.
days ago.
I didn't realize this had to be a marriage therapy session.
I didn't either. I feel very awkward being here right now.
No, Cary and I met a couple of times for lunch and talked about what a merger would look like if we came together. So, it started, I think, probably fairly classically. We had a synergy in our work styles. We had a conversation about what it would look like if it got tighter. We got comfortable with one another in sort of envisioning that future. We shared financials. We decided it was time to get serious about some due diligence. And we reached a point where we felt comfortable taking it one step further. And so Ric is being a little facetious because he kind of knew this was happening. He just didn't necessarily know how far we were getting, and he was letting me manage that process. We did at one point share with both Cary's team and our team the idea that we were going to come together and become one.
How big were those teams?
They were both about 5 individuals at that point. It was Ric and I and a few other people, and Cary had himself and a few other people. And so when we came together, we had a little bit of duplication. So we ended up losing a couple of employees, but for the most part, we just merged.
You mentioned, and I mentioned, that first moment walking in and having that oh crap moment that you're starting from scratch. Do you remember the first day that 2 of you and your 2 teams walked into a shared office for the first time?
So we had, at that point, moved out of our sun porch and into
5 people in that sun porch seems crowded.
It would have been 3 people in that, 2 people at times in that sun porch was really crowded. We had moved into a space owned by Dick Cattell. 257 Harlow, actually, the little strip of brick building underneath One Cumberland Place. And that was a fantastic space for us in those early days. And Dick was an excellent landlord. He was very kind to us. And we were there, and there was a lot of open and extra space. So Cary's team moved in to our space, and they got a moving van, and we sort of moved all their stuff in. And it was, both agencies were pretty bootleg at that point. It was, whatever leftover desk your mom had, and filing cabinets that were a little beat up that had stickers from 3 other businesses on them. And
what that office didn't have was open space for collaboration.
No, it really didn't.
And that was a challenge. Someone could have a great idea at one end of the hallway, and you'd have to get up. And by the time you got to the other end of the hallway to talk to the person, you'd forgotten what your great idea was.
Yeah. It had been originally built out to be like an investment firm. So there were a lot of little offices so that advisors could have private conversations with their clients. So we were working around those kind of space challenges for the first few years.
And then came the time that we decided we needed a more collaborative space. And you took the trip to 6 State Street.
Yeah.
And what was, at one point, a museum of some sort for the city.
Right. It was the Bangor Historical Society's Bangor History Museum.
That was a scary looking place.
Well, it wasn't its most charming when we looked at it the first time, but we were very lucky to, again, have another excellent landlord in Carol Epstein. And she was very gracious and very helpful and really saw the vision that we wanted to create in that space and was willing to work with us. So we did a pretty major overhaul cosmetically of that space when we first moved in.
What was the conversation like when you described to them that we want this wall taken out and this needs to be this color and this needs to be that color and we need this level of open space?
So look, I'll tell you, honestly, there was a little bit of fear behind the eyes of the folks that we were talking with as we were describing our sort of color coordinated vision of green, orange, and cream, right? But when it was all said and done, Carol actually would bring people in to show them the space because it had become something where you could see modernity in an older building in a way that was fairly seamless.
And eventually we had to knock that brick wall out in order to create what became and what is part of Sutherland Weston's...
Our identity now, really.
The Idea Studio.
The Idea Studio.
And that place was more than just a big TV and a place to take a nap when no one was watching. It had all of these big comfy chairs and you could sit down in there and really collaborate.
The furniture was really oversized in many respects, but in part that was intentional because we wanted people to feel like they could put their feet up or slouch back or really sink in a way that changed the conversations. And so for many years, we had a conference room that allowed us to sort of sit around a table if we needed that. But then we also had this more collaborative space that forced you to sit differently with others and therefore often talk differently and think differently.
One of the things that stuck out at me about that space was the appreciation for the history of that building and the appreciation for the history of downtown Bangor. That building was the Eastern Bank and Trust downtown Bangor branch. Ironically, I ran into somebody at Hannaford years after starting to work there who used to work at Eastern Bank. We just struck up a conversation online and she worked there 40 years, 50 years earlier. It was crazy. But how much of that appreciation for history kind of led into you deciding that space was right for you?
I've always had an appreciation for the architecture and the look and feel of a space that has weathered time. And it was really interesting to me how that building itself became, it was one of the first buildings rebuilt after the Great Fire of 1911. And it was an excellent place for us to be, both from a location, but also from the sense of historical perspective. I'm a firm believer that Maine is a fabulous place, and we have so much to offer, both the communities and the individuals who live in our communities, but also the world in general. And part of that is just really welcoming and respecting the history that we have.
Remember, we found somewhere up in what we called the Hobbit Hole.
Yes. Yeah.
A deposit slip
Yep.
for Eastern
Deposit book.
And one of the deposit slips was dated 1912.
Was it from George Hill?
I think so.
No, but it was something we did end up giving to the Historical Society because we felt it was important for them to have that little piece of history. What was great about that building was that there were lots of stories that could be told about the bank and the other businesses that had been there over the years. And I remember in early days, Arthur Comstock came to visit, and he had worked there as a young teller when he was first getting started in banking. And he wanted to tell lots of tales. He had lots of stories to share.
I remember the Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce after hours that we hosted.
When we opened
in that
space,
and it was sardines.
Yeah, it was pretty full.
We thought we had a big enough space to accommodate everyone that's going to come by.
Yeah.
Early days, that was before you expanded then.
Yeah, it was. We weren't through the brick wall yet.
Yeah.
But everything was fresh and shiny and new. We actually expanded twice in that space.
Was it 3 times? Because you expanded into the Idea Studio and then expanded further down the hall to take what used to be the
Bangor room.
What
the
became
vault.
the Bangor room, but the vault that belonged to the other company. And then you
Yes.
expanded into what used to be the congressman's office for
Yes.
the AV team.
Yeah, you're actually right. There were 3 times. Look, Dan, you know our history
I know my
better than
history
I
of
do.
Sutherland Weston.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
If this were
Yeah.
a trivia night, I would be.
Yeah, and each one of those expansions was something that, was a moment of growth for us. It was an opportunity to think big again. And again, we had just a really great relationship with Carol and her team, and they were very accommodating when we wanted to grow.
I can think of some of the major campaigns and the ideas that were kicked around in that building and in that idea studio. R.H. Foster's Hot on the Spot campaign.
Yeah, the cheap milk campaign.
The cheap milk campaign came out of that. When we had the privilege of working for Versat Power.
It was when Bangor Hydro became Emera.
Emera and Power to the People of Maine.
Yep. Yeah.
And the first pitch to someone outside our company for We Are Bangor took place in that room.
Yes. Well, and we did things there like our Just Desserts for the, United Way of Eastern Maine at the time, Heart of Maine United Way now, where we were throwing pies at people. Those.
Okay. We were throwing pies at people. At whom were you throwing pies?
Well, you
And
Dan and Cary.
He had it coming. But also the celebrities.
Yeah, we had celebrities every day.
You didn't take a pie in the face.
Not one. You gave a few.
I did take a pie in the face, and there is video recording of me getting pied.
Oh, the last day.
Yeah.
The last day was kind of a free-for-all. Yeah.
I don't think we talked about it, but deciding to pull up stakes from 6 State Street and come to the Marketing Mansion, which we don't really call it the Marketing Mansion, by the way.
But it is a big house on the hill.
It is at 150 State.
Yeah, we liked State Street, apparently. We just kind of moved up.
Beautiful street.
Moving
Beautiful
on
street.
up like George and Wheezy.
Yeah.
But that was a big decision.
It was a big decision. It went from renting to owning, right? It's like, it was a big move.
And similar to 6th State Street, I feel like there's another location for Sutherland Weston with a great appreciation for the history of the space that we occupy, but also a place that everybody has pride to bring clients in and show it off.
It's a great space, don't you think? It's very different than 6th State Street. It has a different feel, a different vibe. It's taken us a little bit to figure out how to use it to its fullest advantage. But what I love about this house on the hill is that it really allows us to marry that old grandness of Bangor into sort of the modern technology of today.
So we've touched on the physical changes to the company that you own, and we've talked about some of the intellectual changes, the growth with campaigns and everything, but a privilege to serve a whole lot of people in the state of Maine, business-wise.
Yeah. One of the things that we've done as we've evolved over the last 20 years is really developed a deep level of expertise in the Maine consumer, the Maine resident. And we have worked really hard to continue to grow that level of expertise by digging deeper and understanding better. We've done some research. We do lots of talking, reading, and analyzing data points in order to really make sure we understand how Mainers think and feel and what affects their purchasing decisions. From that, one of the newer things that we've created that I'm really excited about is the Maine Insights Lab. It's a collaborative opportunity for businesses to come in and work with us on sort of a sprint basis where we can take that expertise about the Maine consumer and help a company level up their messaging and their approach to Mainers so that they can get even more of the market share that they're looking for.
What led you to it?
I wish I could say that it was this stroke of brilliance that I had, but honestly, it was a long, slow drip of years of digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And then there was just this moment when I was like, what if we just offered this up to businesses in Maine or outside of Maine who are looking to come into Maine, right? What would this look like? And in the true marketing fashion, as the marketer that I am, I was like, well, if we're going to offer it up as a package, we should give it a name. So hence it became the Maine Insights Lab.
I think there are a lot of businesses in Maine that will find value from joining us in this lab.
Yeah, I do too.
Now, what exactly will they experience?
The Maine Insights Lab is meant to be sort of a think tank on how Mainers make their purchasing decisions in the state of Maine. One of the things that we'll be doing through the Maine Insights Lab is delivering quarterly insight briefs that are a little bit deeper, a little bit more robust than just 400 words in a newsletter. And those are meant to provide Maine business leaders with enough information and data so that they can make tangible changes to the marketing that they have for their business.
It's business growing value.
Exactly. We've done some research. We developed a sort of attitudinal study and have used that research that we called Mindsets of Maine to really talk about three primary groups of Mainers and how they think and feel about Maine, what their opinions are of living and working in Maine. Very different than sort of traditional opinion-based research in that it's about their attitude, not necessarily the position that they hold today. And those main mindsets are things that we're using to create a series of mini reports about specific topics and how those mindsets react to them. One of the things that businesses can do with this information is use it to really think about, okay, so if someone is thinking this way, and this is what challenges their core beliefs, then what can my messaging be to sort of counteract that or support that in the right direction in order to make a difference for me? The other thing I think that's really cool about what we're offering inside the Maine Insights Lab is insight sprints. So we can do a half day with a business where there's some homework ahead of time, but then you come in either virtually or into our office, into the Idea Studio 2.0 that we have here. You can spend time with us and really get some expert advice and opinion based on your actual individual needs and challenges. And we'll work through those with that organization.
And we should talk about the snacks that are available.
Well, there are always snacks because it's Sutherland Weston. Honest to goodness, sometimes I see the budget line for snacks for Sutherland Weston, and I think this has got to go.
That was on page 4 of the spreadsheet. We're supposed to talk about the amount of money we spend on beverages and snacks.
Yeah.
It is kind of nice when we have some of our regulars, organizations, and some of the businesses that have worked with us for years, and they come in and
they know what color seltzer they want what flavor seltzer they want.
And they know that the 207 coffee is on.
Brewing.
Brewing.
They also know where the larger candy bars are stored, and they just go help themselves.
Yeah.
We're fine with that, Miles.
Right.
You know, if we maybe made more of a point of pointing out the snacks that we have available for people coming to join us and talk with us.
No.
We could double our business in 2026.
You think?
If you could go back in time and tell yourself,
oh my goodness,
a couple of things that maybe you were afraid of that you shouldn't have been, or things that you maybe wish you knew then that you know now, for the aspiring person in your shoes today, what sorts of things would you say?
I think one of the things that is important to know is that you can do everything. You just can't do everything all at once. And so learning how to prioritize your growth goals is really important. And then figuring out how to focus on that first priority and delivering on that is equally important as knowing what it is.
Do you think that back then you legitimately thought you could do everything?
No, I didn't. No, of course not. And, I totally get when people talk about imposter syndrome, right? I faked it till I maked it a lot as we were growing this business. But looking back, what I have realized is that the confidence that I have today comes from the hard work I put in then. And I am a huge advocate of anybody who has a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit giving it a try. And, Ric and I have had this conversation many times, whether it was about starting a business or starting a family or painting the house, whatever it was like, well, if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? And the other thing that we have said to ourselves time and time again is, well, at least we're doing it, right? Like you never know if you're going to win or lose until you try.
So you would go back and tell yourself, go ahead and go for it because you can do anything. You just can't do everything at the same time.
Yes.
Everyone's. Would your 2002 self believed you?
I think my 2002 self knew that innately, or else I would never have cracked open the box on that PC from Sam's Club and decided to start my own business.
I think it's at that age, though, where people do feel like they can do anything because they haven't necessarily always experienced that wall to realize they can't do something. They might have been knocked down, but maybe they got back up.
It's one of the reasons that I felt
Are you going to start singing Chumbawamba?
No.
I was thinking about it, but Elizabeth cut me off.
Everyone was right that moment.
So you know what? We had really good friends who owned a small business at the time, Josh and Beth Hayward. And one of the things that I learned from Josh, one of the things that he said to me as we were kind of talking about me making this decision to go out on my own was that now is the time. And I was in my early 30s. We had a little bit of financial stability, but we were still young enough that giving it a try, even if it failed, didn't mean the end of the world. There's a lot less risk to trying some things when you're 30 than there are when you're 60. And I can appreciate that. And it was his encouragement that led to sort of the visionary thinking that I had at the time.
Do you still have the electric pencil sharpener?
I do. I absolutely do. It's on my desk in my office. It's what anybody sharpens their pencils with here in Sutherland Weston still.
How has the business changed overall? Big picture.
Big picture. So, we went from one employee in the back porch. Cary had one employee in his back bedroom, himself and myself, right? And then it has grown to up to 17, 18 employees at one point. We're a little bit less than that now because one of the things that has really changed about marketing in Maine is that with technology and innovation, we've been able to do more with less people, but also the shape of the business, the style of the business has changed. What individuals are looking for from us now is a lot more strategy and insight related. While we still produce a lot of creative material, collateral materials, deliverables like videos and commercials. There's a whole lot more strategy that's involved. Back in the day, 23 years ago, there was a lot more doing. And I don't think that there was less thinking, but thinking wasn't as critical. It wasn't as much of a core component, I think I would say. Not that it wasn't critical, because I think good strategies always mattered. But I think when people were shopping for an advertising agency, that's what they were shopping for. Someone who could do their advertising, not necessarily someone who had great business acumen, who would help them think strategically about how to grow their business.
Do people still refer to this as an advertising agency, or has that sort of industry evolved as well?
I think that industry has evolved as well. I think there are a few people who still use that term because there are also still people who shop at Doug's Shop and Save, right?
Guilty as charged.
But I think that many more people would say that we're a marketing firm, that we are helping folks with their marketing and sales in a way that is a little bit more strategic.
To piggyback on what you just said too, I was being introduced to some team members for a client of mine, and they said, Dan works with our business strategist at Sutherland Weston.
Yeah, that's great.
And it seems to me that evolution continues to kind of move in a direction towards strategy always.
Yeah, and oftentimes when people ask me what I do for a living, I don't ever use the word advertising, right? Mm-hmm. I talk about business strategy, growth strategy, the marketing that is needed in order for that to happen.
Well, I think the only thing you haven't mentioned so far about running the business is having a strong, confident spouse at home that supports you and guides you. Are we out of time already?
Right?
We are, yeah.
Love of Pete, we're out of time.
This was the only thing on my spreadsheet not to bring up. Thanks for listening to the Ric and Dan Show.
And what would Dan say right now? Nothing smart. If you like what you heard, don't suppose you'd click that subscribe button.
And maybe leave us a review on your favorite listening platform.
5 stars are our favorite.
And next time you hear someone say,
"You can't get there from here,"
you tell them to listen to the Ric and Dan Show.
From Sutherland Weston Marketing Communications. More at mainepodcasts.com.